Hello everyone. In this video, I will be discussing the qualitative analysis of basic radical, that is cation and polycation. To learn about the qualitative analysis of acid radical, make sure to watch the previous video in this series. Let us start with the identification of cation. This is the list of cation commonly identified at academic levels. Some of these basic radicals present in a mixture can be identified using the preliminary test discussed in the previous video of this series. Now let us understand how basic radical or cation are identified in qualitative analysis. They are basically divided into 6 groups and each group is separated using a specific chemical reagent. This reagent is called the group reagent. The cation in each group have something in common. They all precipitate together when treated with their respective group reagent. This grouping makes it easier to systematically identify the cation present in a mixture. So how does this process of qualitative analysis actually work? First, we add a group of reagent to the mixture. This helps us separate a specific group of cation by forming a precipitate. But this precipitate usually contains more than one cation. So next we dissolve it using a suitable chemical reagent, something that can break it down into a solution. Finally, we perform a specific confirmatory test on this solution to identify which exact cation is present in the group. It is like a step-by-step detective process to find out what ions are hiding in the mixture. Group-wise separation of basic radical. Let us now look at how different basic radical or cation are divided into groups for easy identification. As you can see here, the cation are divided into 7 groups starting from group 0 to group 6. Group 0 cations like ammonium and potassium fall in this group. They don't form precipitate easily, so they are detected separately and no group reagent is used. In case of group 1, we use dilute HCl. It detects silver, lead and mercury. In group 2, we use hydrogen sulfide gas in an acidic medium. It precipitates cation like mercury, copper, cadmium, bismuth and even arsenic, antimony and tin in different oxidation state. Group 3, in case of group 3, reagent used is a combination of ammonium chloride and ammonium hydroxide. This helps detect aluminium, iron and chromium. In case of group 4, we again use hydrogen sulfide, but this time we use alkaline medium by the addition of ammonia gas or ammonium hydroxide solution. This group identified zinc, nickel, cobalt, manganese and iron. In case of group 5, we use ammonium carbonate in an ammonical medium. It helps detect barium, strontium and calcium. At last we have group 6. Group 6 has no common group reagent. It contains only magnesium, which is tested separately using a specific test. So this systematic grouping helps us separate and identify cation one by one based on how they react with a specific reagent. Key concept behind the cation separation. Before we go further, let us understand the two key scientific principles behind the separation of cation in qualitative analysis. The first one is solubility product. This tells us how much of a substance can dissolve in water. If the product of ion concentration exceeds the solubility product, the substance starts to precipitate out. So we use this principle to decide when a cation will form a solid precipitate during the analysis. The second concept is common ion effect. When we add a solution that already contains one of the ion of a salt, it reduces the solubility of that salt. This helps us control which cation will precipitate in a particular group. Very important for accurate group separation. So using these two principles, we are able to predict and control the separation of cation in a step-by-step manners. Let us discuss first solubility product in detail. The solubility product constant is the equilibrium constant that describes the dissolution of a sparingly soluble salt in water. It indicates the maximum concentration of ions that can exist in solution before the salt begins to precipitate. For a sparingly soluble salt AmBn that dissociate as Ma plus Nb, the solubility product expression can be expressed as Ksp equal to A raised to power m into B raised to power n. For example, silver chloride dissociate into silver ion and chloride ion. So its solubility product is a product of the concentration of silver ion and chloride ion. The calcium chloride dissociate into 1 mole of calcium and 2 moles of fluoride ion. So its Ksp is the product of concentration of calcium ion and the square of the concentration of fluoride ion. Now let us look at relevant concept which is ionic product. The ionic product is the product of the molar concentration of the ion in a solution at a given moment. It is similar to Ksp, but here is some difference. Ksp only apply at equilibrium, while ionic product can be calculated any time even when the equilibrium is there or not. The solubility product of a salt remains constant at a given temperature, whereas its ionic product can be varied to regulate its precipitation. The value of ionic products helps us understand whether precipitation will occur or not. Let us break it down. For example, if the ionic product is less than the solubility product, then the solution is unsaturated. That means more salt can be dissolved. If they are equal, then the solution is saturated and in equilibrium. No more salt can be dissolved, but there is no precipitation either. If the ionic product exceeds the solubility product, the solution is supersaturated and the precipitation will occur. So by adjusting the ionic product, we can control the precipitation of cation during the course of qualitative analysis. Let us now understand an important concept which is common ion effect. When we mix a strong electrolyte with a weak electrolyte and both have a common ion, something interesting happens. The dissociation of weak electrolyte gets suppressed. This is known as common ion effect. Let us take an example of ammonium chloride. Ammonium chloride is a strong electrolyte and ammonium hydroxide is a weak electrolyte. Both contain the common ion ammonium ion. The degree of dissociation of ammonium hydroxide is suppressed to common ion effects. Here is what actually happens. Ammonium chloride dissociates completely to give ammonium ion and chloride ion, whereas ammonium hydroxide hardly dissociates up to 4% as it is a weak electrolyte. But because of the extra ammonium ion from the ammonium chloride, its dissociation is reduced. This means only fewer hydroxide ions are produced, less than even 4%, and the solution becomes less basic. This suppression helps us control the solubility and precipitation of certain cations, especially in group 3 of qualitative analysis. Group-wise separation of cation using these two principles. Let us see how the principle of solubility product and common ion effect helps in the group-wise separation of cation. First, let us talk about the group 0 cation, ammonium and potassium. These two are tested directly at the beginning because they don't interfere with the detection of other metal ions in the later group. So we perform simply preliminary tests to detect them before moving on to further. On the other hand, we have group 6 which contain only magnesium ion. Unlike the other groups, group 6 has no specific group reagent. Instead, magnesium stay in a solution even after the first 5 groups are removed. That's why it is called a residual ion, and it is detected after all the cation has been separated. So the detection of group 0 and group 6 cation is handled outside the typical group precipitation process. Let us begin with the group 1 cation analysis, which includes silver, lead and mercury. In this group, we add dilute HCl to the solution. This causes the cation to form insoluble chloride, silver chloride, lead chloride and mercury chloride, which precipitate out as white solid. Now, why do they precipitate? It is because their solubility product value or solubility product constant, which are very low, meaning they are hardly soluble in water. When we add dilute HCl, we increase the concentration of chloride ion. So this trigger common ion effect. As the chloride ion concentration rises, the solubility of these chloride decreases further. As a result, the ionic product exceeds the solubility product and the precipitation occur. This helps us detect the group 1 cation easily. Group 2. In group 2 analysis, these cation like copper, bismuth, cadmium, arsenic, antimony and tin, they are detected by precipitating them as sulfide. We use dilute HCl to create an acidic medium, which plays a very important role. HCl dissociates into H plus ion and chloride ion. Now H2S gas is passed through the solution, but H2 is a weak acid, and in water it dissociates as H2S along with the 2H plus ion and sulfide ion. Due to the presence of extra H plus ion from the HCl, the dissociation of H2S is suppressed due to the common ion effect. As a result, the concentration of sulfide ion remain very low, but that's exactly what we want, because group 2 sulfide have very low solubility product. Even this low sulfide is enough to precipitate only group 2 cation as their sulfide. But what about group 4 cations like zinc, nickel and cobalt? These need a very high concentration of sulfide ion to precipitate, which we achieve in basic medium, not in acidic medium. So the use of HCl in group 2 analysis is crucial. It prevents the unwanted precipitation of group 4 sulfide, ensuring only group 2 cation are detected in this stage. Let us now discuss group 3 analysis, which include the basic radical like iron, aluminium and chromium. When we add ammonium hydroxide in the presence of ammonium chloride, these group 3 cation get precipitated as their hydroxide. Why does this happen? It is because these hydroxide have very low solubility product value. So when hydroxide ion are introduced by ammonium hydroxide, they quickly combine with the metal ion to form solid precipitate. But before adding ammonium hydroxide, we always add ammonium chloride. Why? To suppress the dissociation of ammonium hydroxide. This keeps the hydroxide ion concentration limited, avoiding excessive precipitation. Here is how you can see ammonium chloride dissociate completely to release ammonium ion and chloride ion, whereas ammonium hydroxide, since being a weak acid or weak base, it dissociates to ammonium ion and hydroxide ion. Now when we add ammonium hydroxide, the slight increase in hydroxide is just enough to precipitate iron, aluminium and chromium as their hydroxide. But of course it is not enough to precipitate the hydroxide of metal from the next group like magnesium hydroxide. This controls the precipitation and ensure that we can selectively separate group 3 cation without interference from the other group's metal ion. Let us talk about the group 4 cation analysis, which includes zinc, manganese, nickel and cobalt. These metals are detected by passing H2S gas into the solution, but only in a medium of ammonium hydroxide. Why do we use alkaline medium? Because as we have discussed earlier, because in this condition These metal ion forms insoluble sulfide like zinc sulfide, manganese sulfide, nickel sulfide and cobalt sulfide due to their low solubility product. In an acidic medium, H2O doesn't have enough sulfide ion because of H plus ion and common ion effect. But in alkaline medium, alkaline condition, the dissociation of H2S increase, giving more sulfide ion which are necessary for precipitation. Now remember, these group 4 sulfide have a very high solubility product than group 2 sulfide, so they need a very high concentration of sulfide ion to precipitate, and that is only possible in basic medium. Let us talk about group 5 cation, which include barium, strontium and calcium. To identify these cation, we precipitate them as their carbonate. For this, we use ammonium carbonate in the presence of ammonium chloride and ammonium hydroxide. When we add enough carbonate ion, the ionic product of barium carbonate, strontium carbonate and calcium carbonate becomes higher than their solubility product, so they start precipitate. But before this precipitation, we add ammonium chloride to this solution because ammonium chloride suppresses the ionization of ammonium hydroxide. Due to the common ion effect of ammonium, the second equilibrium shift to the left, which means less hydroxide ion is produced. And this is very important because if there will be a very high concentration of hydroxide ion, then these three cation will precipitate as their hydroxide like barium hydroxide, strontium hydroxide and calcium hydroxide without the formation of their carbonate salt. And we don't want this. We want only the carbonate to precipitate. So by controlling the hydroxide ion concentration using the common ion effect, we ensure that only group 5 carbonate are formed, making the test selective and accurate. Before proceeding to the systematically test the cation of group 1 to 6, it is convenient to test for the presence of or absence of ammonium and potassium in the mixture. These are included in the 0 group. Ammonium ion. Test number 1. Reaction with sodium hydroxide. Start by taking 0.1 gram of salt mixture in a clean test tube. Now add around 2 ml of 10% sodium hydroxide solution to it. Gently heat the mixture. If the ammonium ion are present, you will notice a distinct ammonium smell coming out. That's ammonia gas being released. To confirm the presence of ammonia, take a glass rod, dip in a concentrated HCl and bring it near the mouth of the test tube. If the dense white fumes appear, it confirms the formation of ammonium chloride, which is a clear sign that ammonium ion are present. Test number 2, using Nestle reagent. Now pass the ammonia gas released from the earlier reaction in a test tube containing 1 or 2 ml of Nestle reagent. Nestle reagent is an alkaline solution of potassium tetraiodomercurate. If the brown precipitate is formed, that's a positive test for ammonium ion. For potassium, test number 1, using flame test. You must be familiar with this from our previous video. Perform the flame test on the salt mixture. If the potassium is present, the flame will show a violet color, which is a characteristic of potassium ion. Test number 2, using sodium cobalt nitride test. Take water extract of the mixture. To this add 1 or 2 ml of acetic acid followed by 4 drops of freshly prepared sodium cobalt nitride solution. If a yellow precipitate occur, it confirms the presence of potassium ion. Note, this test for potassium should perform only after ensuring that ammonium ion are absent, because ammonium ion also give the same test. To eliminate ammonia, simply boil the solution with sodium hydroxide before proceeding with the potassium test. Preparation of the original solution. Let us discuss how to prepare original solution or OS for qualitative analysis of basic radical using the solubility test. Number 1. Solubility test in water. First, take about 0.1 gram of salt mixture in a test tube, add 5 ml water and check it whether it dissolve or not in a cold condition. If it doesn't dissolve, gently heat it and see if it is dissolved in hot or boiling water or not. If it is completely dissolved, this aqueous solution is used as the original solution for further cation analysis. If not soluble, discard and move it to the next solvent. Solubility test in dilute HCl. Take another 0.1 gram of the mixture, add 2-3 ml of dilute HCl and check the solubility in cold. If it is dissolved completely, use this as original solution, and this means group 1 cation are absent. If it is still doesn't dissolve, discard and go to the next step. Solubility test in concentrated HCl. Again take 0.1 gram of mixture, add 2-3 ml of concentrated HCl. Test the solubility in both cold as well as in hot condition. If soluble, dilute it by adding 5 ml of water and use it for original solution. If insoluble, discard and continue testing with the next acid. Solubility test in nitric acid. Take again 0.1 gram of mixture in a test tube, add both dilute as well as concentrated nitric acid separately in 2 different test tubes and check the solubility in cold as well as in hot condition. If fully soluble, it can be used as original solution. There is some note that if you are using nitric acid, so make sure to follow this point. Using nitric acid can interfere with group 2 analysis due to the sulfur precipitation with H2S. To remove excess nitric acid, gently evaporate the solution to near dryness in a china dish, but don't overheat. Add 10 ml of water, evaporate again to near dryness. Add another 10 ml of water. Now this solution is ready for cation analysis and it is free from the nitric acid. That is for the preparation of original solution. Make sure to follow each step carefully for accurate result. Once the solvent or acid is found, dissolve 2-3 gram of mixture in it and proceed with the cation identification. Separation of cation radical or basic radicals into groups. First we take 10 ml of original solution in the test tube. To this add few ml of dilute HCl. Now if your original solution is already prepared in concentrated HCl, then no need to add more acid, just dilute it with water. After this, cool the solution gently and centrifuge it. The residue that remains after centrifugation may contain group 1 cation which have like silver, mercury and lead. This group commonly known as silver group. Now take the filtrate, that is the liquid part. After removing the group 1 residue, pass hydrogen sulfide gas through this filtrate while it is diluted with water. Then heat it slightly and again pass H2S gas. Once you see no further precipitation, centrifuge the mixture. The residue now contain group 2 cation. Meanwhile, the filtrate contains the remaining cation like group 3 to group 6. To the residue of group 2, add solid yellow ammonium sulfide solution. Heat this mixture and then centrifuge it. The residue after this step may contain group 2 A cation which include bismuth, copper, cadmium and possibly lead, mercury if they are not fully removed earlier. This is called copper group. The filtrate here may contain group 2B cation like arsenic, tin, antimony. This is referred to the tin group. Now let us go back to the filtrate which contain group 3 to group 6 cation. First, boil the filtrate to remove any dissolved H2S gas. Then add concentrated nitric acid and boil the solution again. Once done, add solid ammonium chloride followed by the excess ammonium hydroxide and then centrifuge it. The residue may contain group 3 cation which are iron, aluminium and chromium. This is known as iron group. To the ammonical filtrate, pass H2S gas again and then again centrifuge. The residue now may contain group 4 cation which include nickel, cobalt, manganese, zinc. This is called zinc group. Now let us look at the filtrate again. If it necessary, concentrate the solution a bit, then add ammonium chloride, ammonium hydroxide and ammonium carbonate. Warm the solution briefly and then centrifuge. The residue may now contain group 5 cation which include calcium, strontium and barium. This is called calcium group. And finally, the filtrate that remains after the separating group 1 to 5 contains only one cation which is magnesium. This is group 6 cation, the last one in this series. So that's how we systematically separate and identify basic radical or cation into 6 analytical groups using the classical qualitative analysis technique. Now coming to the detail of the analysis of group 1 which is known as silver group. Let us understand step by step. Step number 1. Check how the original solution was prepared. If it is prepared using cold dilute HCl and there is no white precipitate, then group 1 cation are absent. In this case, you can skip group 1 analysis and proceed directly to group 2. But if it is not in the case, then follow step number 2. Add dilute HCl to the original solution and cool it. Cooling is very important as it helps to proper precipitation of chloride, especially partial soluble lead chloride. If the original solution is prepared in concentrated HCl, then dilute it twice with the volume of water and then cool it. After cooling, look for any white precipitate. The formation of white precipitate indicates the presence of group 1 cation. Even the solution was prepared using hot dilute HCl, a white precipitate appearing on cooling confirms the presence of group 1 cation. The white precipitate form may consist of lead chloride, silver chloride or maybe mercury chloride. To ensure that all group 1 cation are precipitated, it is best to place the test tube in an ice cold water bath. Cooling helps bring down all possible chloride in solid form. Now filter the white precipitate immediately. The solid residue contains group 1 cation and the filtrate should be kept safely for further analysis of group 2 to group 6 cation. Scheme for analysis of group 1 cation. Begin with the white residue. They may contain group 1 cation. The residue is washed with 1 or 2 ml of cold water. Then boil the residue with 2-3 ml of distilled water and centrifuge the mixture while it is still hot. This step is crucial as immediate centrifugation ensures the complete dissolution of slightly soluble lead chloride, allowing its separation from silver and mercury chloride. After the centrifugation, the residue will contain chlorides of silver and mercury, while the filtrate will contain the lead if it is present in the form of lead chloride. The residue is washed with hot water and treated with 1 or 2 ml of ammonium hydroxide solution. After warming, gently centrifugation is carried out again. In this process, silver forms a soluble ammonical complex and separate into filtrate, whereas mercury forms an insoluble black precipitate of mixture of ammonical complex and elemental mercury, which remain as residue. The mercury contained residue is dissolved in aqua regia, which is a mixture of concentrated nitric acid and HCl in a ratio of 1:3. Chlorine gas produced during this reaction react with the elemental mercury and ammonia complex of mercury to form soluble mercury chloride. This solution is diluted with water and stannous chloride is added. A white precipitate that turns black on adding excess tin chloride, confirming the presence of mercury. The white precipitate is due to the formation of Hg2Cl2, which is unstable and decomposed into black elemental mercury. The filtrate containing the solution of soluble silver ammonical complex, which can be divided into two parts for confirmatory test for silver. To the first part, dilute nitric acid is added. The appearance of white precipitate of silver chloride confirms the presence of silver ion. To the second part, add potassium chromate solution. The formation of red precipitate of silver chromate confirms silver ion. Now moving to the filtrate containing water soluble lead chloride, the solution is also divided into two parts. To the first part, add 3 or 4 drops of potassium chromate. The formation of a yellow precipitate of lead chromate confirms lead ion. This precipitate is soluble in sodium hydroxide. To the second part, add 3-4 drops of Ki. A yellow precipitate appears which dissolve upon heating and reappear as yellow crystal on cooling, confirm the presence of lead ion. Scheme for analysis of group 2 cation. The filtrate obtained after the removal of group 1 cation is taken for further analysis. A few drops of dilute HCl are added to this filtrate. The solution is then heated gently and H2S gas is passed through it. If a precipitate appears, the passing of H2S gas is continued until no further precipitation is observed. The appearance of a colored precipitate confirms the presence of group 2 cation. The mixture is then subjected to centrifugation to separate the group 2 from the group 3 onwards cation. The residue contains sulfide of group 2 cation and the filtrate contains the cations from the group 3 to group 6. This residue is washed thoroughly with distilled water and washing are discarded. Approximately 2 to 3 ml of yellow ammonium sulfide solution is then added to the washed residue. The test tube is then warmed in a water bath for 1 or 2 minutes. Following this, the contents are centrifuged again to separate the soluble and insoluble sulfide. The residue contains the sulfide of group 2K cation, bismuth, copper and cadmium along with the unseparated mercury and lead ion from the group 1. These can be identified by their characteristic color. Lead sulfide, mercury sulfide and copper sulfide appears black. Cadmium sulfide appears yellow and bismuth sulfide appears brown. The filtrate contains sulfide of group 2 B cation, which include arsenic, tin and antimony. These exhibit the following color. Sulfide of arsenic and tin are yellow and antimony is orange. Scheme for the analysis of group 2A cation. Add concentrated nitric acid to group 2A cation's residue. Heat the mixture for 2-3 minutes and centrifuge. If a residue remains and black in color, it indicates the presence of mercury sulfide. A confirmatory test for mercury, as discussed previously, should be performed on this residue. The filtrate may contain the nitrates of copper, cadmium, lead and bismuth. To this solution, add excess ammonium hydroxide until the characteristic smell of ammonia is noted. The solution is then centrifuged. The residue at this stage contains bismuth and lead hydroxide. This residue is warm and approximately 5 ml of sodium hydroxide solution is added and then centrifuged. If the resulting residue is white, it is identified as bismuth hydroxide. This white residue is dissolved in dilute HCl, forming soluble bismuth chloride. The resulting solution is divided into two parts for confirmatory test. To the first part, excess water is added. The formation of white turbidity of bismuth oxychloride confirms bismuth ion. To the second part, excess sodium stannate solution is added and the mixture is cooled. The appearance of black precipitate indicates the formation of elemental bismuth, confirming the presence of bismuth ion. The filtrate obtained after the separation of bismuth may still contain lead in the form of sodium plumbate. This solution is acidified using dilute acetic acid and subjected to the confirmatory test for lead as previously described. The final filtrate after the separation of bismuth and lead contains soluble ammoniacal complexes of copper and cadmium. Observation of blue color in the solution suggests the possible presence of copper. To confirm copper, a portion of this solution filtrate is acidified with dilute acetic acid and a few drops of potassium ferrocyanide. The formation of chocolate colored precipitate of copper ferrocyanide confirms the presence of copper. If there is no blue color, test for cadmium. In the absence of blue color, copper is likely absent. The solution is then acidified with HCl, which is dilute, and hydrogen sulfide gas is passed through the solution. The appearance of yellow precipitate of cadmium sulfide confirms the presence of cadmium ion. Scheme for the analysis of group 2 B. Add excess amount of dilute HCl to the filtrate and centrifuge to separate any precipitate. If the residue is colored, it may contain thiosulfate salt of arsenic, antimony or tin. This residue is treated with concentrated HCl, heated and centrifuged again. The resulting filtrate is discarded as it holds no significance for further group analysis. If the residue appears yellow, it suggests the presence of arsenic in the form of its sulfide. This yellow residue is dissolved in concentrated nitric acid and heated to ensure complete dissolution. After centrifugation, the filtrate is collected and a few drops of ammonium molybdate solution are added. Gently heated, the formation of yellow precipitate of ammonium phosphomolybdate confirms the presence of arsenic. Now examine the filtrate obtained after removing arsenic, which may contain chlorides of tin or antimony. This solution is divided into two equal parts for confirmatory tests. Let us perform the test for antimony first. To the first part, add ammonium hydroxide followed by the small amount of solid oxalic acid. Boil the mixture and then pass H2S gas. The formation of an orange precipitate confirms the presence of antimony. For the test for tin, add 2-3 granules of zinc metal and allow the reaction to complete. After the reaction finished, filter the mixture and add mercury chloride solution. The appearance of white or grey confirms the presence of tin. Removal of interfering anion in a qualitative analysis. Accurate detection of group 3 cation in qualitative analysis require the prior removal of interfering anions such as phosphate, oxalate, tartrate, borate and fluoride. These anions remain soluble in this strongly acidic medium used for group 1 and group 2 analysis, hence they do not interfere at this stage. However, once the solution becomes alkaline due to the presence of ammonium hydroxide solution, these anions may cause unwanted precipitation of group 4, group 5 or even magnesium along with the group 3 cation. To prevent this, interfering anion must be eliminated before proceeding with further group analysis. General procedure for filtrate preparation. Begin with the filtrate from the group 2 analysis. This solution is taken in a boiling tube and H2S gas is removed by boiling. Next, add 2-3 ml of concentrated nitric acid and continue boiling for about 1 or 2 minutes. This step ensures the oxidation of ferrous to ferric ion. If no interfering anion are present, proceed directly to group 3 analysis. Otherwise, select the appropriate removal method based on the anion detected. Removal of oxalate and tartrate. Transfer the filtrate into a china dish and evaporate the content until nearly dry. The residue form contain oxalic and tartaric acid. Add 4 to 5 ml of concentrated nitric acid and heat the mixture again to near dryness. This step ensures the oxidation of oxalate and tartrate to carbon dioxide, which can be escaped as a gas. Dissolve the dry residue in a hot concentrated HCl and then dilute with water. The resulting solution is now suitable for group 3 to group 6 cation analysis. Removal of borate and fluoride. To remove borate and fluoride, evaporate the filtrate from group 2 in a china dish until dry. Add 4 to 5 ml of concentrated HCl and heat again nearly dryness. Dissolve the residue in concentrated HCl followed by the dilution with water. This solution can be used for further analysis. Removal of phosphate. Begin by boiling the filtrate from the group 2 to remove any residual H2S. Add 2-3 drops of concentrated nitric acid, boil the mixture and then add 10 ml of zirconium nitrate solution. Boil the solution again and allow to the solution to cool and then filter and centrifuge. The precipitate form is zirconium phosphate, which can be discarded. The resulting filtrate is now free from phosphate and suitable for further cation analysis. Proceeding to the next stage in a systematic and qualitative analysis, the solution is now either consists of group 2 filtrate in case of no interfering anion, or the solution obtained after successful removal of interfering anions such as phosphate, oxalate, tartrate, borate or maybe fluoride. To this solution, add small amount of ammonium chloride followed by ammonium hydroxide solution. This step increases the pH in gradually, ensuring selective precipitation of specific cation. A precipitate form will consist of hydroxide of iron, aluminium or chromium. The filtrate on the other hand may contain group 4, group 5 and group 6 cation. Scheme for analysis of group 3 cation. To begin the analysis of group 3 cation, the previously obtained precipitate containing hydroxide of iron, aluminium and chromium is first washed with 3 to 4 ml of hot ammonium chloride solution. It is then transferred into a boiling tube. Next, add 5 to 6 ml of sodium hydroxide solution along with the 3 to 5 ml of hydrogen peroxide solution. The mixture is heated gently until effervescence ceases. This step led to formation of soluble complex and separating aluminium and chromium from iron. Aluminium hydroxide reacts with sodium hydroxide to form sodium aluminate, a colorless soluble compound. Chromium hydroxide reacts with sodium hydroxide and hydrogen peroxide to form sodium chromate, which impart a yellow color to the solution. Ferric hydroxide remain insoluble and form the residue. To the residue, which contain ferric hydroxide, add 2 ml of HCl to dissolve it. The resulting solution is then divided into two parts for the conformity test. To the first part, add few drops of potassium thiocyanate solution. A blood red color due to the formation of ferric thiocyanate confirm the presence of iron. To the second part, add few drops of potassium ferrocyanide solution. The appearance of blue precipitate or Prussian blue due to the formation of ferrocyanide indicate the iron. The filtrate from the earlier step may contain soluble aluminium and chromium ion as sodium aluminate and sodium chromate. This solution is divided into four parts. For the first part, identification of aluminium by precipitation. Acidify the first part with the dilute HCl, then add ammonium hydroxide until solution becomes alkaline and heat it to boiling. A white gelatinous precipitate of aluminium hydroxide confirm aluminium. To the second part, add dilute HCl followed by the 1 or 2 ml of ammonium acetate and 0.5 ml of aluminum reagent. A red precipitate confirm the presence of aluminium ion. Acidify the third part with acetic acid and add lead acetate solution. A formation of yellow precipitate of lead chromate indicates the presence of lead ion. To the fourth part, add dilute sulfuric acid and cool the solution. Then add 1 ml of amyl alcohol followed by the 4-5 drops of hydrogen peroxide. After shaking, allow the layers to separate. A blue color appears in the organic layer, confirm the chromium ion due to the formation of peroxychromium acid. Analysis for the group 4 cation. To begin the analysis of group 4 cation, pass H2S gas into the filtrate obtained after the separation of group 3. Continue passing H2S gas until no further precipitation occurs. Then centrifuge the mixture to separate the precipitate from the filtrate. The resulting precipitate may contain metal sulfide of cobalt, nickel and manganese along with the zinc. The filtrate contains group 5 or group 6 cation. To isolate cobalt and nickel, warm the group 4 residue in 1 ml or 2 ml of dilute HCl and centrifuge. The residue contains cobalt and nickel sulfide and it is now separated from the manganese and zinc. Dissolve the residue in aqua regia and dilute with water to obtain chlorides of cobalt and nickel. Divide this into two parts. To the first part, add 1 ml of amyl alcohol and 0.5 gram of ammonium thiocyanate. Shake well. Formation of blue color in organic confirm the cobalt ion. To the second part, add ammonium hydroxide until the solution becomes alkaline and release a smell of ammonia gas. Then add 3 to 4 drops of DMG or dimethyl glyoxime reagent. A rose red color precipitate confirm nickel ion. Now take the filtrate from the HCl extraction step. It contains soluble salt of manganese and zinc. Boil the filtrate to remove any H2S gas. Then add excess sodium hydroxide solution and again boil it. Centrifuge the mixture. The precipitate contains manganese hydroxide. Dissolve the precipitate into a concentrated nitric acid and add 3 to 4 drops of hydrogen peroxide. After boiling, add 0.1 gram or 0.2 gram of solid sodium bismuthate. Formation of purple color confirms the presence of manganese. To the filtrate, which contains soluble sodium zincate, divide into two parts. To the first part, add ammonium chloride and ammonium hydroxide until there is no smell of ammonia. Then pass H2S gas. A white precipitate of zinc sulfide confirms the presence of zinc. To the second part, add 1% of dithiazone solution. A rose red color appears which changes to green upon the addition of HCl, confirm zinc. Scheme for analysis of group 5. Now we begin the analysis of group 5, which include barium, strontium and calcium. Take the filtrate of the group 4 and heat it for few minutes. To the hot solution, add 1 or 2 gram of solid ammonium chloride followed by the 2-3 ml of ammonium hydroxide and 5 to 6 ml of solid saturated solution of ammonium carbonate. If the group 5 cation are present, a white precipitate will form, which consists of carbonate of barium, strontium and calcium. Centrifuge to separate the precipitate from the filtrate. Now wash the white residue with cold water and dissolve in 3 to 4 ml of dilute acetic acid. Add few drops of potassium chromate solution and centrifuge again. A yellow precipitate of barium chromate confirms the presence of barium. To further confirmation, dissolve the yellow precipitate in concentrated HCl and perform flame test. A green color flame indicates the presence of barium. Now the filtrate from the barium chromate contains strontium as well as calcium. Add excess amount of ammonium sulfate solution. If strontium present, a white precipitate of strontium sulfate will form. Centrifuge to collect the residue. Dissolve the residue in 0.5 ml of concentrated HCl and perform the flame test. A deep red color of flame indicates the presence of strontium. To the filtrate from the strontium, add excess amount of ammonium oxalate solution. A white precipitate of calcium oxalate will form. Dissolve the precipitate in concentrated HCl and perform the flame test. A brick red flame confirms the presence of calcium. Scheme for the analysis of group 6. Now we can move the last step, which contains the magnesium only. The solution may contain the magnesium. Evaporate the filtrate to dryness using the gentle heating. This helps remove all volatile impurity and concentrate the magnesium salt. Once dry, dissolve the residue in 1-2 ml of dilute HCl. To this clear solution, add few drops of disodium hydrogen phosphate followed by the few drops of excess ammonium hydroxide solution. Now gently scratch the inner wall of the test tube using a glass rod. This helps in initiating the crystallization if the solution is super saturated. If magnesium is present, you will observe the formation of white crystalline precipitate of magnesium ammonium phosphate. Now I will end this video here. Make sure to like and subscribe if you find the content helpful. Thanks for watching.